Okay, so World War III, which kind of started a couple of days ago, really, is everybody against the Zionist regime that has taken over Israel. Okay, and people don't know this, and they think they know their history. And I've said this in other vlogs: is what's the first country that Nazis invaded? And people think, oh, I can't remember. Is it this one or the? Well, it's Germany. Okay, so fundamentalists, with extreme mentally ill ideologies that are, not caring at all about human rights or altruism or compassion, which is sentience kind of thing, and that don't have sapience either, because their ideologies create a crash not only in their proto-societies, but in, eventually what sustains life on this planet, is they invaded Germany first, right? And they invaded Germany because, culturally speaking at the time, is that nation wasn't healthy, right? It wasn't doing well, and some people wanted to think like this or support this or be part of this, but again, the norm, which creates history, looked the other way until it was too late. Now, Zionists in Israel are an equivalent today of this, right? There's many people that actually want them to act the way they are, and that's because even in the norm, the general population isn't well, right? They've got a lot of anger and hatred of others, and it's the same kind of nonsense that shows, to an expert in the human condition, that our species has failed, right? That sentience and sapience among our species was tens of thousands of years ago, if not hundreds, before life has been great on this planet in the last 12,000 years. I'm talking about in the holosphere, right? But the Anthropocene is also around when this started, but also even before that, through a variety of human domestication syndromes that created barriers to the evolution of our species in regards to sentience and sapience. So today, the Zionists of Israel are supported in so many ways, and they have successfully used the concept of anti-Semitism as a way to protect themselves when they are the worst anti-Semites without realizing it. And they are using Jews, who often also look the other way and are pacifists, and they don't realize that their identities, their religion, their beliefs are being used by these Zionists, and their mentally ill ideologies and hatreds and angers, and they're not well. Now, so many people fall for this, right? They believe that if they criticize the Zionist regime in Israel, that they're going to be anti-Semites in how they're interpreted. And again, these concepts, Zionism and being an anti-Semite, are two totally different concepts. And again, it's obvious that, we don't master language as a species, okay? And I'm not just talking about English, but even in the languages of countries in the Middle East, they don't get it. They don't get how language can be so easily used against them because of their cognitive dissonance, their incongruences, their inconsistencies, their hypocrisy, their double standards. It's such part of every culture in the world now, including Canada, that it's so easy to create these traps for the general population, the norm. So Zionists have invaded Israel in the same way that Nazis have invaded Germany. And of course, we think we learn from history, but we would only learn from history if we looked at ourselves in the mirror. We don't say they were the good guys, they were the bad guys, all these soldiers gave their lives as sacrifice, they were the biggest heroes ever. And I mean, both sides say this. And, it doesn't talk about what makes our species keep going to war. What makes it that soldiers are so easily manipulated to fight the fight of the elites, who are in no way better people than the soldiers, except soldiers lose their humanity not fighting for it, but fighting for others' mental illnesses and ideologies. So I don't see anything that is possible to prevent the ongoing World War III. But the difference is, is we've crashed a lot of proto-societies and proto-civilizations. We've never achieved a stable, even proto-civilization in the history of our species, if we're honest about using language efficiently. But there's something now, during this crash of this cycle where we keep failing as a people-primate species, that supposedly is in the image of God. So you got to think about how crazy these gods would be if they create a species as lame as us, right? And yes, I suffer from species alienation because I'm extremely disappointed, discouraged, saddened, and frustrated with the species I share DNA with. And it took me into my 30s before I managed, mostly on my own, because I didn't belong to human communities, to self-actualize into an Homo sapien, walking the talk of the real definitions of sentience and sapience, not wanting to be part of the problems and working on solutions that are now, even before I was born, tipping points have been passed that these solutions can't be implemented. So I'm watching the ongoing regression, devolution of the species I share DNA with, of the human condition. But I just want to say, guys, that you're very predictable, and that's what you suffer from, which makes me suffer from species alienation, is you suffer from a variety of human domestication syndromes that has now made you automaton sheep, and that you can't deviate, you can't self-correct, and you can no longer evolve. But now, during this cycle of your crash that keeps, being very apparent, either in fires or climate emergency or loss of biodiversity, or poisons or toxins or wars spreading, and people in charge or influenced getting dumber and dumber, but also, I'm not going to say evil as much as corrupted or insane, right? And it grows. I mean, an alien species observing us secretly would say there is sign of intelligent life on this planet. It's just not from the people primate species. I'm pointing myself because I'm talking about our species right now. And the species that I share DNA with is so present online and its insanity that I'm not even sure I'd be noticed myself by an alien species trying to find intelligent life. They'd find it in dolphins and orangutans and insect colonies and things like that. They'd find intelligence there, and they'd also find these other species able to self-correct or adapt in ways we can't. So we might not even make the list of the first 100 intelligent species on this planet. And of course, one way to evaluate for intelligence is not to destroy the womb that sustains you when you can't even exit the womb yet, because you're busy being at war and being corrupted by ideologies of the supernatural, like religions, and the magical, like ownership, money, imaginary borders. All these things are magical paradigms that are separate from the real natural world, which we should be much more knowledgeable of if we wanted to be able to self-correct, but we haven't followed the scientific principles or humanism as dominant ideologies, which would have helped us not have passed all the tipping points that we have passed. So I want to say that you're predictable as a species, and it's very horrible to live among this time of history having self-actualized, undergone a maturation process, prioritized personal development. As a member of the same DNA species as you, the people primates, you are the Homo communia. I am the elusive Homo sapien. I'm willing to be in a public debate with anybody to prove me wrong, that the 99.99999% of you, including humanists, are not who you claim to be, and it's so easy to demonstrate it in short conversations, and definitely in ways that you don't walk the talk of your self-image as individuals or as a species. So this is where we're at. Some of the cruelest acts that you do are not just against each other being alive now, but to actually have kids and more kids which is required for capitalism to crash the biosphere and to accelerate the Anthropocene even faster. It requires kids to take part in this overconsumption and counter-terraforming of the biosphere, of heaven on this planet. So this is who you are, and of course it's not hard to be ashamed of who you are if you're sentient. And it's very predictable what's going to happen. And I've been telling more and more people I talk to, there's obvious signs of developmental disabilities with people in employment, and definitely in people of influence. Right? They are more and more ignoring the obvious, not showing signs that they can tap into the higher functions of their brain. And this is what I have to deal with pretty much every day of my life.